WeRiseMag.com.
You've done a lot of character voices.
Yeah, definitely.
And what are your most memorable character voices that you've done?
I think most memorable to me is always not the one fans necessarily remember. I think recently Ganta and Deadman Wonderland is definitely going to hit people's radar just because it was on Toonami, the relaunch of Toonami, and it's not a normal show. It's a very bloody, very vulgar at times show. I think the most iconic for me would be Son Goku and Saiyuki, Chrono and Chrono Crusade, maybe Heihachi and Sam 7, the little kid in Beck, and yeah, it's hard. Like there's so many. I'm a fan of anime, so anytime I work on a cool show, I'm like, oh, and that character, and that character, and that, like, so it's like picking, which one of your daughters is the prettiest. You can't do that, so you have to be careful. But yeah, there's a lot of them. I think the one a lot of fans probably make the biggest deal over is one of the two troublemaking twins in Ouran High School Host Club, or maybe something like that. But yeah, I'm lucky enough to get to play a lot of weird little characters. So
It's funny, my daughter loves the twins.
Oh yeah, you have to love them. They're the troublemakers. They're the total troublemakers. I know two little twins in real life, and they just love the fact that, and they're troublemakers. So they love watching these twins in the anime. They're like, "You're just like us." I'm like, "But I'm not a real twin. I just play one on TV." But yeah, they're pretty funny little guys.
How did the opportunity to sing the fourth opening song in Dragon Ball Z Kai come around?
It's so weird. I grew up doing musical theater. I grew up singing my whole life, and it was funny because I said, I bet anime fans are never going to find out that I have a singing voice and that I do, vocal stuff. And in 1 year, I did a rock album with a bunch of voice actors that we used to do for benefit. We'd raise money for charity doing these rock albums. Then I got cast in Nerima Daikon Brothers, which is all singing. It's like if you took the Blues Brothers and made it an anime musical. That's what Nerima Daikon Brothers is. Oh, and created it by the guy that did XL Saga, so it's that wacky. And then months later, I was cast in the lead in Beck, where I'm this little boy that's the lead singer of a rock and roll band. And so when they were coming up with the idea to do Dragon Soul sung by different people in the cast, the tough thing about Dragon Soul is it's a really high song. It's not a song for a guy with a baritone voice. and the funny thing is, I think the best one is Justin Cook's version, just because Justin's in a rock and roll band. So Justin really laid the track down that I learned the song by. And the idea eventually was that I think at one point they were going to talk about splicing all of us together for the last one. And then something happened and they wanted to use somebody else. But I think it's neat that several of us in the show sing the song. I think which ones of us sang it were based on who had the highest singing voices. But I loved doing it. And the coolest thing was Justin. Brina Palencia recorded me on the first initial run of it. And then Justin, I guess being in a rock band, Justin wanted to tweak it just right. And getting to record, I started voice acting at Funimation pretty much after Justin had stopped directing. And I'd always wanted to work with Justin, like, as a director, so it was really cool because he was like a musical director for the song, and he came in and kind of tweaked the song just the way he liked it. So it was fun working with, a guy I respect as an actor, as well as he does some really interesting sounding dub work as well, like with Fruits Basket and whatnot. So it was cool that he came in and directed, the song. He came in and just kind of polished the very last version of the song we used. It's fun. My brother's, the new voice of Frieza, and Dragon Ball fandom is
huge.
Yeah. And I told him, I was like, I don't know if you're ready for what's about to happen. And he's like, oh, are you upset? I'm like, no, I've already been involved in some crazy fandom. So I like that my work in Dragon Ball Z Kai is kind of sidelined. I'm one of the Ginyu Force. I'm the little, I call him the little Cartman version of the Ginyu Force. I'm Goldo. And then I get to do the song, and that's just enough. It's just enough to be a part of Dragon Ball without having to deal with the oh my gosh, you're in Dragon Ball Z fandom. So I let my brother deal with all that right now. But it was cool. I like the way it turned out too. It's really cool.
Nice. And so on top of voice acting, you DJ?
I'm a DJ. I've been DJing for 28 years. So now I actually run the dances at several big conventions, and I call it nerd prom because I never wanted to dance with people I went to high school with or whatever. So the idea that I could hang out with a bunch of cool people, you know, like even when you go to a nightclub, half of those people you wouldn't let in your house. So like the idea of building this huge party full of kids that really kind of feel like they're all part of one family, and just my parties at cons have just gotten to be kind of bigger than the Ohio Con dance is like 3,500 kids. Just it looks like a rock concert. It's the most insane just crush of people, and it's so cool to see that and to know that like my nerd prom has turned into like Nerdapalooza, you know, like so it's really really cool, and I love it. I love music, and I love working with there's some Japanese music that I play that people always like, well, you don't play enough Japanese music. I'm like, just because somebody's not singing in Japanese doesn't mean the guy that created this isn't named Shinichi Osawa, right? Like, so I sneak in Japanese dance music and stuff, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be on that side of it. Now I'm actually booking bands for conventions, which is tough because as a fan of, you know, anime and Japanese culture, I used to go to conventions and I work with these J-rock bands that really don't like anybody, and they're like the whole time they're there. So like now that I have my say-so, I book bands that are like nice to these kids, and like we'll do free acoustic, you know, shows, and like I've gotten to work with some great Mari Ijima, Kasuwa, like really fun rock bands that I really enjoy working with, and the nerdcore guys. I got a special spot for nerdcore hip hop. My one of my like best friends is the guy that started that all. His name is Whitey Cracker, and so like I like doing those shows because the nerdcore guys rap about all the stuff we do: video games, comic books, you know, anime, like, you know, computers, the internet. So I enjoy bringing those guys out. I just saw Mega Ran for the first time recently. He just blew me away. So yeah, it's neat doing the music, doing nerdy music promotion as well, because I love it.
When you DJ, do you stick to a specific genre of music, or?
I try not to. In fact, like the music that I played this weekend is a style that most people have never heard me play, called Moombahton, which is like South American and traditionally Latin rhythms with like Skrillex style, you know, synthesizers over them, and it's a slower, grindier music. And somebody was like, man, they were getting dirty during your show, and I was like, yeah, it was kind of my fault. That's what I played. But like living in Texas, I'm also close enough to Louisiana that I'm influenced by bounce music and like a lot of other things. So I think it's neat exposing kids that like might not have ever heard of bounce music or trap music or, you know, a drum and bass or whatever, bring in all those things, and like, and now here's a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and I'm as ADD musically as I am in real life, so like I can't just stick to one genre.
Yeah,
definitely.
When you have time to breathe, when you're not DJing, collecting bands, and voice acting, what do you like to
I live
do?
on an island, actually.
Wow.
So my friends are like, I think the fact that you live on an island says a whole lot. And they said, no, it just means I'm really busy most of the time. I live, and it's not Gilligan's Island. People are always like, y'all have cable? I'm like, yeah, we have an airport on my island too. Like, but I do love being surrounded by water and having like a Jimmy Buffett mindset of just like, hey, everybody calm down. We're about to go have mojitos. It's gonna be okay. But I'm a homebody. I play a stupid amount of video games, and I play music all the time. Some days I joke that my headphones are on before my pants are. I have a big home studio like that. I have my own music area in my house that is like, my dogs think that's the room I go crazy in. And I have a prairie dog and 2 dogs, and so I'm a big pet guy, and I just spend a lot of time doing the nerdy things that I like. Like, I cannot wait to get home and play Dead Space 3.
I was about to ask you, what are you playing?
Dying to start playing. The fact that my friends are playing it this weekend and I don't have an Xbox near me is making me nutty. But I also play a lot of older games. Like I just started playing Dead Island for the first time, and like I'm an actor. I can't always afford the new release game. Like I'll break down when it's something like BioShock Infinite when it comes out, or any Left 4 Dead or Dead Rising. Like there's certain, you can tell I'm a zombie guy. But then some other titles, I'm like, well, it'll be new to me when I get it, and it'll be even better new when it's only $39. So
I can relate.
the coolest, I got a Wii U given to me for Christmas by a friend who reviews video games,
Nice.
and I don't take gifts from fans that are expensive just because I don't ever want to be that guy. But he's like, no, I got a whole stack of them in my office, and I'm like, all right, but only because you have a bunch of them. And so I've had a lot of fun having a system that, like, my fiance is just as big a gamer as I am. So, like, if the Xbox is fired up, I love that I can just pick up that controller and walk around the house playing a game, which is so cool. So I've been playing, like, little games on the Wii U. There's this weird game called Puddle that I'm just obsessed with. It's just forcing liquid down a tube, and it's like it's the dumbest little physics game, but, like, so yeah, when I'm home, it's just what most people do: playing video games, watching DVDs, like catching up on my anime titles, trying to get through my Netflix queue. I'll never get to the end of my Netflix queue.
That either.
Spending too much time on the internet, laughing at dumb pictures on the internet, like what everybody else does. But I do try to relax. I burned my candle too hard when I first started doing this, and my health took a dive as a result. Actually had a heart attack at a convention. So not the place you want to spend the weekend, knowing there's cosplay going on and you're like getting your blood taken. Like, can I please get back to the hotel? Like, so I do try to take care of myself, and I'm trying to be like, now I exercise and stuff at home, but I'm trying, when I'm not here giving 110, I try to keep it at like 40 at home and just take it easy and have a lot of chill time.
Is there a time or something that happened when you realized that your popularity was bigger than you knew it was?
It's a weird thing to even talk about. I have a real hard time even addressing it now, because I have a real hard, there's some actors that are like, well, my fan's this, and I'm like, I know I would be dumb to say that I don't think there are people that are my fans, which is weird because I'm just this dude that shouldn't even be allowed to have pets some days, like I make a lot of mistakes. Some of them are caught on camera. I'm a very human person. Somebody said, how does it feel to be the Billy Joe Armstrong, Courtney Love of the anime world? And I'm like, but I like to think of myself as the Lauryn Hill. I've have nervous breakdowns and all that right in front of the camera. But the fact that there are so many people looking at you is not just I think there's a group of people that think it's a big power, like a big ego rush thing. And for me, it just means more responsibility, because I know there's a kid that I'm gonna I don't know how, but I'm gonna go sit down with him and this girl and just hang out for about 20 or 30 minutes because we just had a chance encounter on the internet, and it was totally just chatty about a specific subject, and he was like, oh my god, are you Greg Ayres? And I'm like, yeah, I am. Oh my god. So we arranged to meet each other, so I'm gonna go hang out with those guys in just a little bit. But I think that by the fact that somebody likes what I do, in spite of the fact that maybe I've got a dirty mouth or am weird or whatever, I think it means I have to take the time out of my schedule to find out who they are and do the FaceTime with them. I think it's weird. YouTube, I hate YouTube some days because I don't think you should know how I like my toilet paper, under or over, but yet there's somebody with a camera okay, we're asking this of all the voice actors, toilet paper, under or over? I'm like, you are really wasting bandwidth for this, so I think some parts, and my brother, and that's how everybody knows my brother and I like the toilet paper different. And I'm like, well, so now you know that there's a constant roll war at my parents' house, but it's weird, and I try, I've watched some of the nicest people I know let that ruin them and become kind of monsters, and that's why I have such a huge respect for Lauryn Hill, because she saw that same thing and tried to sing about it, she's singing about the people that she started this band with became monsters, and I know that feeling. So I try to always tell myself, like, look, you're the same goofy guy you started out as, and you're not ever going to be any different. And even if it's hard not to let certain things get to you or, like, make you different some days, but I think it's really important to remember that, you know, you're that same guy that still has to show up for jury duty, like, pay your traffic tickets just like anybody else. But it's weird. The popularity thing, if I could change one thing about this job, it would just be that. But then then when I have this kid that just, said, look, you are the reason I'm more comfortable with who I am. And you're the reason I'm brave enough to tell my parents about who I really am, and blah, blah, blah. And, little girls are like, I dyed my hair pink and got in trouble at school just like you. And I'm like, don't do the things you see me do, sweetie. Like this is your first lesson I'm going to teach you. Don't watch me and do what I do.
You can make it not too book.
Yeah, but I do, it is an interesting dynamic, and I do feel responsible some days, and so that's an interesting thing that I never thought I would deal with, is that exact thing. Like, how do you deal with the fact that people aren't just a fan of the characters you play, but like people are like, what's it like to have a prairie dog as a pet? I'm like, how do you know I have a prairie dog? Like, I follow you on Instagram. I'm like, oh, so you've met Mary Houdini, because my prairie dog right now is an escape artist. So like, it's funny that people, because I have social networking that's really not fan related. Like, I have a Tumblr account that's based on my favorite cocktail. It's called Requiem for a Dreamsicle, and it's, that Tumblr has nothing to do with anime. It's just my, these are the dumb videos I like, and here's all my favorite Bob Marley quotes, and there's like, so it's funny for people to find those things that are not necessarily anime related, and like, be sure to tell Coco, hi, and that's my dog, and I'm like, I'm sure my dog will appreciate somebody she doesn't know telling her hi, but I'll do it, like, hi, Coco. Girl dressed as Zealous says hi. So it's funny. It's really funny to deal with all that stuff. And it's interesting. When I'm an old man, I don't know what I'm going to tell my grandkids or my, neighbors or whatever. So it's funny. At the end of the day, it's all about having a good story to tell. And this all is going to be a great story someday. So, yeah.
Last question.
Yeah.
Since you referred to yourself, and people refer to you as the rock star of the voice acting group.
I think they were just meaning the messy rock star.
How many different hair colors have you had to date?
I don't even know. I started doing this to my hair when I was in the 6th grade. And then I was the first person to ever be kicked out of my junior high school for having, green hair or whatever. That was scandalous in Texas back then. And it's so weird to think it's so normal now. I see kids with, like, streaks and nose piercings, and I'm like, I couldn't even have my ears pierced, They've got gauged ears and all that. And then I worked for, then there was a time period that I stopped acting when I was a kid and, wanted money to buy skateboards and cars and things like that. So I forayed into computers, and I was like this wirehead kid that worked IT everywhere, and I ended up in a law firm. So I had to dress like a Republican, every day for 7 years of my life. So when I left the law firm and started doing this full-time for a living, I have never had a normal hair color since. And it's funny because I run into people from the law firm all the time, and I ran into the head of HR. I was on my way to Otakon, and I had this red mohawk that was like almost a foot tall, and the sides of my head were leopard spotted. And she didn't recognize me. I was like, hey, what's up? And she's like, who are you? And I was like, Greg Ayres, the guy that taught you how to use your BlackBerry. Oh, well, what did you do to yourself? I'm like, oh, well, I do this thing now, and people take my picture, and I scribble on things. And she's like, well, that haircut would never fly at the firm. And I'm like, that's the point. That is the point. I make sure nothing I do would look good at the firm, So I've lost track. The next wish list, because I told somebody, I said, I think the only person that gets more excited at the sound of the word weave than me is Azealia Banks. But she just had gray hair weaved in, and I want silver dreadlocks. I think it would look so cool to look like the creepy Matrix, the little guys in the Matrix, the little guys all dressed in white. So, I have this dream of having bright silver dreadlocks. So if I can pull that one off, that would be my next like bucket list hair. But right now I'm just focusing on getting some length on it again. I let it get real long, and then I'm like, I shave it, and then I'm like, oh, I miss my hair. So it's like, we call that rebooting my hair when I shave it all off and start from scratch. And I just recently, a bunch of friends from junior high school just found me, which is funny because they see me signing things and on stage with crazy lights, and they're like, are you in a band or something? I'm like, no, I'm a DJ still, and blah, blah, blah. And so this one guy goes, is it fair that I'm 4 years younger and I've taken care of my hair, and you've been doing that ever since I've known you, and you have a full head of hair and I am bald? And I'm like, good genes, man. So like, but it's cool. It's funny. I don't know. I don't know what my next hair color will be, but I'm sure it will be something.
Well, we look forward to seeing it.
Definitely. Keep your eyes open for the silver. If you're ever in a wig shop or a weave shop and you see metallic silver hair, let me know, because I gotta beat Azealia Banks to the silver hair. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A pleasure.
Great, fun interview.
Yeah,
Definitely.
WeRiseMag.com.